Welcome back to my channel. My name is Carly Stevens. This is Carly Stevens Books for all things writing, publishing, and indie author life. And I have the distinct privilege of talking to Steven Dunn today. Steven Dunn is the author of two books from Turbulent Sky Press, Water and Power, and Potted Meat, which was a finalist for the Colorado Book Award, and has been adapted for a short film entitled The Usual Route from Foothills Productions. Sounds really cool, and I'd love to know more about, if not now, then at some point. Steven was born and raised in West Virginia. He's an MFA candidate at Stetson University and also teaches at Regis University's Mile High MFA. So, welcome. It is so good to be able to talk to you all about creating healthy writing communities.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, no, this is awesome. So not only we'll get into more specifics here, but I think you're the perfect person to talk to about creating writing communities because not only have you very intentionally done that in Denver, from what I understand, but you can tell me all about it. But you've also co-written books, so on lots of different levels, you've really made writing a kind of collaborative experience. So, tell us a little bit about how you got into writing in the first place.
Yeah, I didn't know I was a writer my entire life. I thought I was a painter, so I painted most of the time. And
Hmm.
then in my like sort of late 20s, I had an art show and it took me a year to prepare for it. I had a whole bunch of paintings, maybe about 20 paintings, and
Oh,
something
wow.
didn't go right during that year. But I was like, I'm an artist. I must push through, stuff like that. And then at my opening, my wife asked me, she was like, did you ever realize how many words you have on your paintings? And I was like, oh, I think I should be a writer. And so then I started writing. And that's how it happened. In my late 20s was
Hmm.
sort of like failure. I don't know. Or I think painting was leading me towards writing, and I didn't really understand it until my wife said something about it. So yeah, that's what it was.
That's an interesting path. I've heard a lot of different ways that people get into writing, but I think you're the first person to go from a more visual medium to a more verbal medium. So, did you just not consider being an author before that? Did you, or
No, I
not at
never,
all?
yeah, I never considered it. I think I sort of liked books. Like I kind of liked to read, but I wasn't a huge reader in high school or yeah, I don't know. I mean, I like storytelling and I talk to my friends. And then once I started writing, a lot of my friends were like, yes, this makes sense for you. This is what you do. I was like, oh, okay, yeah. I am telling stories all the time. So yeah. But it just
Yeah, I
never
mean,
occurred to me to be a writer. Yeah.
hmm. Yeah, that always has to be part of it, right? That desire to tell stories in one format or another.
Yeah.
Um, so one thing that struck me as I was looking into all the work that you've done with creating and fostering and supporting writing communities is just the idea that writing is such a solitary endeavor for most people. So what is the value just in general in having a writing community? Say somebody's not co-writing a book, they're writing their own
Mhm.
story. Why is that still helpful?
For me, I think it helps to learn from other people and to because a lot of writing world feels like a mystery sometimes and
Mhm.
people are always like doubting themselves. So I think it's good to have people around to support you and for you to show support also. Like for me to support other people feels good to me and I learn about myself, like how yeah, in the ways that I'm able to support people, I learn a lot about myself, my own process.
Mm.
And I mostly do it through I have a writing group. I'm not saying it's my writing group. I'm saying like, I'm in a writing group that we've had for 9 years now, and we meet maybe yeah we meet every once a week for
Mm.
nine. Like we've met once a week for the last 9 years. Sometimes we'll
Wow.
take breaks as needed, but I feel like out of all the school, the everything, this is like the best thing that I've done for my writing life is this writing group that I've had. And it's so good. Like we gossip and we talk and we uplift each other. It's so amazing. And if I'm upset about not getting published somewhere, I can like vent,
Mhm.
and I can if I need an essay looked at that I'm applying to a school, we can do all of these things. And we have poets in the group, people who practice photography and painters, and but we're all writers, but we also do all these other things. So we have all of these just
Mm.
different techniques that we can bring into writing. So I've learned so much, and it's helped me be a better teacher because I have access to what they're thinking and writing about. So
Right.
it's been so good. Yeah. Yeah.
And that sounds incredible. And 9 years for a single writing group. That's quite I thought I was doing pretty well. I have a group of 3 other people and we meet every other week for it's been about 5 years, and I thought we're like the marathoners, but you're way beyond that. So how did you meet your group, and how can people, meet other writers and start to connect in a more in-person basis?
It started out with people I knew in college, and I just loved them. And I was like, we should do something after we graduate. I don't want to lose this. And then after that, I would just be out in the community, going to different readings and meeting people, and I just having friends. And people like, wow, I really want to be in the writing group. I'm trying to get serious. I was like, you should come to ours if you want to, And that's how we did it. Just being out in the writing community, like at readings or meetups. There was a Writers of Color meetup that we would go and people would talk, and then sometimes we'd invite people to join our writing group. So yeah, just being out there and being supportive, or like being a fan of writing, led us to get people in our group.
Being proactive about all the events that already exist and kind of creating that
Yeah.
network and
Mhm.
nice. So what are some of the ways, that you're able to support each other? It sounds like just in some broad ways, you can help encourage people to continue doing what they're doing. But how else have you seen this community that you've helped create support one another?
Um, I think with professional opportunities also.
Mm.
So one person in our group maybe runs like a conference or something, and then this person will invite, because they know our work, so they'll invite us to speak at the conference, and we may get paid to do that. So there's some professional opportunities there because we already know each other. So when we do things, sometimes we'll invite each other to read, or we'll blurb each other's books when they come out.
Oh,
So that
nice.
type of built-in support that we've already have because we have good relationships already. And it's so nice when people, like members of our group, had a first book coming out, and they don't have to worry about finding blurbs from people, because like, hey, you have a built-in group of people, we will blurb your book, don't worry about that. uh so yeah, that is one. And then
Mm.
a couple of us teach at colleges. A couple of us are professors. So someone in our group was like, I'm thinking about getting an MFA. What do you think? So we're going to come together as a group and discuss this, talk about different programs and different ways to go about it and the drawbacks. So yeah, so a lot of those professional ways as well as the creative ways, and just so I don't know, just being a person, I think, is one of the big things. So I feel like
Mm.
for me, I feel like I can be my full self, and I trust my group, so I can take risk in my work. I can do
Mm.
things, and I just know like it'll be fine. So just to be able to be my full self and be a person and take risks allows me to do a lot of things that I don't think I could do alone.
That's that's beautiful. I'm a little jealous. These built-in professional connections and I love the fact that you said you can be yourself and try maybe uncomfortable things or something new or and you're expecting not to be judged or shunned or, made to made to be a different way. Was there something that you did to make your community of writers into that kind of healthy space for everyone? Or did everybody just come with that sort of open mind?
We talk about it. Well, I think we know the people who we invite into the group
Mhm.
beforehand. We know them well from other areas of life, and so we already know, we have a sense of who they are. And what they do, and then we are always transparent in group. Whenever we have new people, we go around, I'm like, hey, we support each other, and
Mhm,
this is what we try to do here, and we talk about ways to give feedback. So we're very
mm,
transparent, and then we change the group whatever we need. Maybe twice a year, we'll say, hey, is this group working for everybody? Do we need to change something? Right?
mm,
What do we need to do? So we check in often, and some people leave and some people, come back. So right now we have about 10 or yeah, 10 members right now, and I think four original members, and then, you know, three of the other members have been in for a few years, so they feel like old members
mhm.
also. Um, so yeah, we're just always transparent, and we realize that the group is important. So we're flexible on how the group can look year to year, or no, 6 months to 6 months. So yeah.
So for people who are looking for a group, maybe they have, that there are a couple of them in their area. What are some of those hallmarks of a healthy writing community versus an unhealthy one? Because I think we've all kind of seen that
Yeah.
happen, in different pockets of social media and stuff. So, what would you say you should look for primarily if you're shopping around?
I think what I look for are people who will be consistent,
Mm,
and people who are willing to play together. So I feel like play is a big part of this, like
mm,
playing and experimenting with each other. And it's something I think about, like as a child. I was the kid who like knocked on everybody's door at 7 o'clock in the morning, like, can such and such come out to play? Can such and such come out to play? That's what I did. So I want to be a writer in the world like this. Like I really want to play with my friends, and then stuff can come out of that. So I think when I center the idea of play first, it gets rid of like sneakiness and bitterness and jealousy, and
mm,
not wanting to be transparent. So as long as I put play first and play and support first is a thing to look for, I think, in a healthy group. And yeah, instead of just it being like a professional contact, like play first. And I think
mm,
that can be healthy, and people who communicate well, and not only that, like different interests. So maybe like poets can be in your groups, nonfiction writers, fiction writers, people who write
mhm,
literary fiction, people who write genre fiction. So in order to sort of learn from as many things as you can within reason, of course, has been really helpful. I've learned a lot from, we have like, supposedly I'm a literary fiction writer in the world in all the categories, but
right.
we have a person in, we have a couple people in our group who write fantasy, and I learned so much from what they do with
Mm,
plot, scenes, and how they allow like magic to be. I learned so much, and that has helped my, literary fiction or whatever. Uh, so yeah, playfulness, good communicators, and a variety of interest in genre.
mm. I love that your group has poets, literary fiction, and genre fiction, and it's not like one has this hierarchy above the other. Because I agree with you. I think it's absolutely true that if you get too stuck in one um, niche, you're missing out on some of the things you can learn from. What can you learn about language from the literary writers, and what can you learn about pacing from the thriller writers, and
Yeah.
just take all these bits and pieces. So that's cool that you have that sort of mix among
It's
your
so
group.
nice. Yeah. I feel like it's cheating sometimes. Like, I'm just going to send this off. you know?
Yeah, so once again, as I was looking into some of the things that you've done, I was impressed by how not only do you intentionally foster community, but you amplify BIPOC voices as well among writers? Because very often, and it's coming from me, a white woman, but judges and publishers are still largely white, straight people. So, in a larger sense, in the writing community, what can people do to make sure that everybody is heard, and nobody is shoved into, this box, like, because you're this, you have to write this way, or um
Yeah.
I know it's kind of
Can
a
we come
wordy way
back?
of phrasing my question, but
Yeah.
yeah, what
No.
can people do to help the larger writing community all flourish equally?
Okay. Could we come back to that question? Because I wanted to
Sure,
ask you, what do you
please.
like in terms of like healthy and unhealthy writing communities? Because I'm always like trying to learn more about that question. So I have my ideas, but you asked the question, so I know you have ideas about it. If that's
Well,
okay, ask you that.
just about healthy and unhealthy writing
Yeah, like
communities.
what do you look for in a healthy writing community?
I look for people who are kind, but they're also willing to actually give constructive feedback, not like, "Oh, it was great." It's like, "Okay, that's fine." But people who can communicate those ideas in a way that is supportive, even if the writing's not good, and they aren't going to judge you as a person, even if the writing's not good. And really, you're out for each other's success, and you don't get caught up in the drama of the moment, whether that's publishing drama or this author or that author, or the focus is not on the negative about how difficult or wrong things are going in some sector. The focus is on, love to do this and we get to create magic when we do it well, so let's see if we can help each other get there. So that's what I look for.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I hadn't thought about the drama of the moment. I'm going to keep that with me and like not get caught up in the drama of the moment because yeah, it can be pretty heavy sometimes, like the drama of the moments. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes it's just brief but intense, and all of a sudden, everybody everywhere on social media is just ragging on something or someone, and there can be a lot of validity to it, but also it just becomes this incredibly negative space that I personally try to avoid. I'll have my thoughts, but I just won't share them because we don't need more piling on.
You're smart.
So
Yeah, that is true.
I'd
It's
rather
partly why
rather
I
be a
say,
positive
yeah,
voice, encouraging people in the right direction.
yeah, yeah. I like that. Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah. And
Yeah.
thank you for letting me ask you something. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the question. I teach creative writing too in English and stuff, so you caught me with a question that I actually do have thoughts on, as opposed to some that I just want to hear from other people, and I honestly don't know what I think. That one I kind of do. So
Oh yes, yes.
yeah, so to circle back to that question that I asked you, the larger community, this one is a question that I have less of an answer for, and I'd much rather hear from people who um, are not me.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah.
So what can we do like as a whole to have more diverse voices and yeah, I thought about this a lot and have had like tussles with presses and organizers. So what I personally do, and I think you can do it in small ways also, it can start to ripple. So I make sure, like, if I do a panel or reading, that I'm not the only POC on the panel or reading, and which has happened to me often. And I think
Mm,
at first I was just concerned about doing a thing like, oh, I got invited somewhere, I'm honored. Yes, I'm still honored, but I don't. First, it feels uncomfortable to be the only POC. So now I
mm,
say, hey, I would like to do this reading, but I don't want to do it if I'm the only one. And then
mm.
or people come along, and then usually the other people are like, well, do you know somebody? So then that labor sort of like falls on me, which is okay sometimes, but sometimes it's not. I was like, I would be more comfortable if you knew somebody else.
Yeah.
So I think in those
Mm,
things, so far as like organizing readings or inviting people to read or panels or inviting people to an anthology, to be mindful and intentional about,
mm.
like including POC. I was supposed to edit a anthology for, oh my God, I shouldn't say the name. No, I can say the name, whatever. I was supposed to help edit an anthology for Flash Fiction. and I said, can we guarantee at least half of the this book will be people of color? Because flash fiction is a thing that I feel is like often leaves out people of color, and the the main organizer couldn't guarantee that, so I didn't edit it. So it was a loss. So I lost some opportunity for myself to be an
Mm,
editor for this, famous flash fiction thing. So yes, I think just being
mm.
more intentional, and less defensive if like people make a mistake. Sometimes people just aren't aware of it, but if somebody says something to them about it, like maybe not being defensive about
Mm.
it, yeah, yeah. So I think it's the same sort of similar conversations when we think about racism as a whole. It applies like, are you offensive when someone says something to you? Are you acknowledging your part in this? Yeah, it's not a great answer, I don't think, but I think it's the little things like what I can do as a person are those small things.
No, I thought that was a great answer. I mean, the starting place for everybody is to look at themselves and start to try to acknowledge what are those unintentional biases, beyond the big glaring obvious, intentional ones. Let's just assume that that's not the case for the people watching this, but what are those unintentional ways that we lean when just because, I grew up with mostly, like a white family and like
Yeah,
can I open my eyes and realize like, oh, okay, I should intentionally invite more people in and yeah, no, I think it all starts with the individual and being
yeah,
aware. So I think those are some practical individual suggestions. I thought that was great. Thank you.
thank you. Yeah, and there are bigger organizations who are looking at, but why can't I remember it now? Oh my god, the vote. Oh, I can't remember the name. I'm blanking on it. But there's an organization who looks at how many women are being published and how many POC are being published by the big
Mhm.
presses, and they keep track of those things. So, like that type of organizational paying attention and notifying people what's going on and educating, I think, is great too.
Yeah, and not and well, now I'm thinking from like my being a woman perspective, but not not assuming that somebody's going to write in a certain genre or in a certain way or with a certain type of character. I think everybody should have a lot of freedom in the writing space, But I guess that's more of a
Yeah,
complex, an in-depth conversation in a different direction. I appreciate uh
yeah,
what you've
right.
given us in terms of just making sure that this is an inclusive community and nobody's stuck on the sidelines trying to find their one way in or what have you.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's fantastic.
You're
So
talking about being in a box. I usually get
mhm.
invited every January. I get a couple emails like, "Hey, could you come read some slam poetry at my like Black History event?" And I was like, "I'm not even a poet. I don't know how you found me." I was like, "Oh my god!" But yes, that's that box you're thinking like, whoever sees my face or whatever and think like, "Oh, slam poet," you know.
Yeah,
At least,
most of my main characters are all male main characters, and sometimes people are like, "Huh, look at that." I'm like, "Yes, is that a problem?" You know? Anyway, you have some upcoming work coming out. Would you like to tell us a little bit about that? How people can find more about you and about the work that you do online?
yeah, yeah. I have a co-written novel coming out with Katie Jean Shinkle. It's called Tannery Bay, and the book is about a group of members. It's about Black joy, queer joy, a community who has to overcome some challenges in the town, and they're stuck in the month of July. So it's like July 2nd to July 37th over and over again,
Hmm.
and they want to get out of this, get out of July, basically. They don't, nobody knows what year it is. They're just stuck in this like loop of July, but people age and everything. It's not Groundhog Day where the same thing happens. Um, So yeah, we have that coming out, and you're talking about like writing male characters. So part of our goal with this book is that people often, there's that question that's floating around like, can you write from somebody else's perspective? And I'm like, oh man, I don't know. So we're offering like collaboration as a possibility to do that.
Hmm.
So Katie Jean is white and lesbian, and I'm black and uh hetero. I forget what to call it, but straight. I don't want to say gay people are crooked by saying I'm straight, but like, but yeah, well, I'm black and straight, so I am writing queer characters.
Hmm.
That's not my experience, and I made a lot of mistakes, so many mistakes, even though me and Katie G have been friends for years. Like we call each other
Hmm.
brother and sister. We've had so many conversations and hung out so much, and I still made mistakes writing queer characters, and
Hmm.
she made mistakes writing black characters. So we were able to sort of like teach each other and like write with each other through all of these processes. So that's sort of a big meta reason, or a big goal of this book, is to think about writing from other people's perspectives in a way of collaboration. And
Hmm.
then after that, so let's say often what happens is when white people write black characters, they get all of the sort of social resources from that, the financial resources, like the Green Book, like people win awards and everything, or get published and all of the stuff that comes with that. So with this book, like I'm not just getting a whole bunch of stuff from writing queer characters. And Katie Jean is not just getting a bunch from writing black characters. We're sharing all of this. Like we're sharing the labor, the rewards, the publishing
Hmm.
rewards, and whatever else comes along with that. So this idea of this town collaborating in this book to overcome these challenges, like we're trying to extend that in the writing and into the sort of after of the writing.
Hmm.
So hopefully it'll be, we're hoping for it. Yeah.
That sounds really interesting. Yeah, I'd love to dive more into it, but we're kind of running
Yeah,
more
sorry, I've been
out of
talking
time.
too much. Oh my God.
No, no, no. It just your answers have kind of opened up different ideas but I have to stay focused. It's a
Okay.
writing community. Have to stay focused. I'm trying. Sometimes I just get so excited about stuff. So the second half of my question, how can people find out more about you and your stuff online if they want to follow you?
I have Facebook, Steven Dunn on Facebook. And my website is Steven C. Dunn. And Katie Jean Shinkle is she's also on Facebook as Katie Jean Shinkle. And her website is the same, www.katiejeanshinkle.com. So yeah, that's how you can find us online. What is those other ones? Oh, Instagram. Yeah. Instagram and Facebook. I love Facebook, so that's mostly where you can find me at.
All right, I'll put all of those links down below if you're interested in connecting with Steven, learning more about him and his work. Thank you so much for talking with me today. This has been awesome. Make sure to subscribe to this channel for more content like this. Like this video if you like it, and I'll see you next week. Bye.